Word. So once you have MS Office Word, so you will be able to create multiple Word documents, right? So you can be able to create multiple Word documents, and also it supports already existing Word documents. So similarly, once you complete the installation of WebLogic, so WebLogic supports, the existing domains, and also the WebLogic software is used to create multiple domains, just like the Word documents. So each domain is unique. Okay, each domain is unique, and if and it doesn't have any relation with the other domain. So once you have created two domains in a single box, these two domains are like two different files altogether. So there is no relation between those two. These two are unique. And one more important thing would be the domain contains one server by default, that is called as admin server. Okay, so everyone comes up with one server that is called as admin server. Okay, so the first thing what we do once you complete the installation of WebLogic would be the creation of the domain. So just like in the Word document, if you just take two Word documents, maybe two resumes. Okay, one is the resume of me, and one may be the resume of Shiva. So the two resumes, the content is different, right? The content is completely different, and the style, the font, or the features of each Word document may be same. I mean, maybe I have used the Arial font, and maybe Shiva is also used the same Arial font, and the size, whatever I have used, maybe it would be similar to the Shiva's resume also. The look wise, the style wise, and everything may look same, but again the content is different, right? So these two are like again unique files. There is no comparison between these two files. So similarly, two domains may have same amount of servers. I mean, like in the first domain, if there are 4 servers, in the second domain also you may have 4 servers. The names may be same, or again the configurations may look similar, but altogether these two are two different domains. Okay, so the domain is like the starting point. So once you wanted to use your WebLogic server, I mean you want to create a server, the first step would be you need to create a domain. So logically these domains are differentiated into two types. One is a production domain, and one other one is the development domain. So these two are designed in such a way that the production domain supports the production environments, and the development domain supports the development environments. So we learn more about these domains when we come to the class of creation and configuration of the domains. So as an introduction, domain is the starting, the key points would be domain is the starting point of the WebLogic. So once you install the WebLogic, to use this WebLogic you need to create a domain. And the second point would be a domain is unique. Though two domains may have identical servers or similar parameters, each domain is unique. Okay, and the third point would be each domain comes with one default server that is called as admin server. And the fourth point would be domains are there are two types of domains. One is a development environment domain and the production environment domain. As you could see here in the domain diagram, there are multiple servers, a cluster, machines. So all these things fall under the domain. So that is the same directory. Okay. Coming to the server, when I say server, the WebLogic server, the WebLogic application server. So we already discussed about the application server. Application server can serve static content, dynamic content. It can also serve the business logic. So WebLogic is a complete application server. Okay. Coming to the server, see WebLogic server in WebLogic we term it as instance actually. So it's better to call it as an instance rather than the server, because WebLogic server is nothing but the execution of the WebLogic.server class file. Okay. It's simply a Java class file. As we discussed earlier, WebLogic itself is a Java program. Okay, so it is nothing but the execution of WebLogic.server class file. It runs as an individual JVM. So whenever you run this class file, so this runs as an individual JVM with a process ID, with a dedicated amount of RAM, and with it and it is multi-threaded, so it has its own memory, and it has its own process, so it runs like an individual unique process. Okay, so if you have 3 manager servers, these 3 manager servers are execution of the same WebLogic.server class 3 times with its own configuration and dedicated amount of RAM. So this will have 3 different process IDs, and this will run like 3 different Java processes. Okay, so there are 2 type of servers in WebLogic. First one would be the admin server, and the second one is the managed servers. Basically, simply we call it as, normally why we call it as a server, because a server is nothing but the one which responds to your request and serves your request, right? So whatever, even if you go for Linux server, a database, so all these things are like when you are requesting something to that, when you send a request for the database, so the database server will respond back with the data. So that's why it is called as database server. So similarly, my application server is you are requesting for an application, and the server will respond with an application. So that's why we are calling it as application server. But in WebLogic, we will be having multiple servers, right? Based on the load, you will be creating multiple servers, server 1, server 2, server 3, server 4. You create multiple servers depending on the application load. Okay, so that's why it's better to call each one as an instance. Okay, instance means every time whenever you start each server, it executes this Java WebLogic.server class file with a dedicated amount of RAM. Okay, so we will be having some startup scripts and all those things we will discuss when we come to the class of the starting of the servers or configuring of the servers. So the points to remember, yeah. Okay, I thought someone pinged for a doubt. Maybe Wilson has given his email ID. The points to remember here would be the WebLogic server means it's nothing but an instance with execution of WebLogic.server class file. So this WebLogic.server class file will run with a dedicated amount of RAM. So from your physical RAM, it will take some memory, and it will run like an individual process with a process ID, and this is multi-threaded. And other important point would be we have 2 type of servers. One is the admin server, and the other one is the managed server. And how you execute this class file? It's very simple. Java space WebLogic.server. So for compiling, it is Java C. For execution of Java program, it is Java, right? So this is a Java class file we are executing, so we can give like Java WebLogic.server. Okay, so coming to the administration server, as we discussed earlier, so once you create a domain, it will come with a default server. You cannot avoid that. So that server is called as admin server. So per one domain, there will be one admin server. You cannot increase the size of the admin servers. Okay, so in every domain, the moment you create a domain, it comes with an admin server. You may have multiple servers in the domain, but admin server will be only one. Okay, it's one and only, it's unique. So for every domain, there will be one admin server. So this admin server controls the complete domain. Okay, so admin server is like the center point, and it controls the complete domain configurations. So this admin server is responsible for the admin server task would be there are a lot of tasks. So one of them would be communicating with the user, that is administrators, nothing but us. So we just communicate with the admin server to make the domain configurations, and it provides, it maintains all the other servers in the domain. So it is like the leader of the domain, or it is like a manager of that domain actually. Okay, so the key points would be to remember here would be the WebLogic admin server is a unique server, and per one domain there will be one admin server. You cannot you cannot avoid the creation of the admin server, or you cannot increase the number of admin servers in your domain. So it will be one and only one admin server per domain. And the second thing would be the admin server maintains the complete configurations of the domain. So inside the domain, so it maintains the complete configurations and it manages all the servers within a single domain. Okay. And the third point would be it will communicate with the users. That means it will communicate with the administrators by providing a admin console. So from admin console we can talk to the admin server. Okay. Coming to the manager server, so in a domain, so in a single domain, apart from admin server, all the other servers are termed as manager servers. So you know, right, when you the WebLogic, to use the WebLogic after the installation, the first step would be we create a domain. The moment you create a domain, it comes up with an admin server. So now your environment is started. So from that admin server, you can create a number of servers within the domain. You can create 100, 150, 200, 250, whatever. So you can create as many servers you need with your within the domain. So by creating the more number of servers, the disk size again increases, right? So this creation of the servers or other things can be done by the admin server. So these servers, which is not an admin server, is termed as the managed servers. So these manager servers report to this admin server and they start running. Normally these manager servers during the runtime, they report to the admin server. So admin server is just like the manager. So these are like the employees. So these servers will do the work for the admin server and they just respond back to the admin server. So they will report to the admin server. So normally these manager servers are used for the business applications. So whenever you are having applications like accessbank.com, hdfc.com or whatever. So these applications we deploy on the manager servers and admin server will manage these manager servers. So we will see more detailed explanation on this admin server and manager server on the regular classes. So this is just an introduction. So in a server there is no limit for the manager server, but there is a limit for admin server, right? You can have only one admin server, you cannot create more servers. But for manager servers you don't have any limit. You can create one server or you can create 100 servers or you can still run your domain without a manager server also. Excuse me. Yeah. So that's about the manager server. As you could see in the domain diagram, there are 3 manager servers here. Okay, 1 admin server. So coming to the mission, in WebLogic we have one more concept called as mission. You could see in the diagrams, right? So mission is nothing but it's a physical box which is hosting your WebLogic server instances. Okay, instances in the sense servers, right? So going forward, even if I say the word instance, it means the WebLogic application server. Okay, a machine is nothing but the physical box that is hosting the WebLogic server instances. So simply it is the computer or it is your laptop, whatever. So which is hosting your WebLogic instances is termed as the machine in WebLogic. So in the machine we have a concept of node manager. So these things we'll discuss in the later classes, okay? So node manager is a software that is used to start and stop the WebLogic server instances, okay? Coming to the cluster, so this is one more important component in the WebLogic. So cluster is nothing but a group of managed servers that work together as a single unit. Suppose you have 6 servers or 7 servers, 7 managed servers, you can make all these 7 servers work like a single server. So this is done for the higher availability of your application and load balancing. Okay, so that means whenever there is a single server running in, if the server goes down, the application request goes down. So but you have a cluster, if one server goes down, the other servers can still handle the incoming request. Okay, so these things we'll discuss more in the cluster concept. For time being, you remember that in a WebLogic domain, you can create a cluster. The cluster is nothing but a group of WebLogic server instances. So, and again, you can have multiple clusters within a domain. In one domain, I can have multiple clusters. A cluster with one, server 2, cluster with server 3 and server 4, and cluster with server 5 and server 6, like that. Okay, but you cannot have a common server for a cluster. I mean, in the first cluster, if you have 1, 2, you cannot use 1 or 2 for other clusters actually. Okay, so those are the important points for now. I will just explain this cluster concept in the later classes once you get comfortable understanding of the basic things actually. Okay, so any doubts in these WebLogic components? I'm just unmuting you. So any doubts? Any doubts, guys? I mean, so far.
From my side, there's no doubts.
It's clear, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So coming to the first step, that would be the WebLogic server installation. That means whenever you are starting your sessions, I mean lab sessions, or whenever you are configuring a new environment, the first step what we do is the installing of the WebLogic software. Okay, in this session I'll just explain about the WebLogic server installation, the different modes we have for the installation of WebLogic, and what happens after the post installation, and what are the directories you need to take care after the installation. Okay. So coming to WebLogic server installation, so WebLogic can be installed in 3 different modes. Okay, one is the graphical user interface mode, and the second one is the console mode, and the third one would be the silent mode. Okay, so these 3 are the different type of modes you have for the installation of WebLogic. So as WebLogic is a Java program, as I told you, WebLogic is a Java, so it can be installed on any operating system. So there is no dependency, because it's a portable, Java is portable, right? You know, right? It can be supported on any operating system. Similarly, WebLogic can be installed and used in any operating system like Windows, Linux, Unix, whatever. All the flavors you can have WebLogic installed. But the requirement would be you need to have a JDK, that is a Java environment. Okay, so for WebLogic 9.x and 10G, I mean for 9.x you need to have a JDK 1.5, but our WebLogic 11G and 10G you need to have a Java 1.6 for the installation. So if you have 1.6, then you are ready to go for the installation in the of that particular computer. Okay, so the 3 different modes would be the GUI mode, the console mode, and the silent mode, and the other requirement would be you need to have a Java environment. And coming to the system requirements or the physical requirements, the first requirement would be you need to have a processor with at least 1 gigahertz of CPU. The speed should be 1 gigahertz, and normally nowadays all the laptops are coming with 2.5 gigs, right? So the processor should be at least 1 gigahertz CPU, and the hard disk, that means the installation directory, wherever you just select the installation directory of WebLogic, it may, I mean it should have at least 2 GB space. So for that directory I should have a space to create at least 2 GB files. So the hard disk requirement would be at least 2 GB. So it's always recommended to have some more 2.5 or 3 gigs. Okay, so it again keeps on increasing based on your number of servers you create and other things. I mean, again, these servers and other things can be created in different paths, but for the installation setup you need to have a 2 GB of hard disk. And coming to the RAM size, the RAM should be at least a 2 GB. So 2 GB of RAM should be there. and the JDKs, so that is Java runtime environment, should be there. So that I already discussed. So these are the system requirements. It is very minimal requirements actually. It doesn't have any specific configurations to have some big amount of huge RAM and other things. So these are like, I mean, the general requirements for WebLogic. So the 3 points would be, the processor should be a 1 gigahertz processor, and hard disk should be a 2 GB of hard disk. At least 2 GB has to be there, and the RAM size should be 2 gigs. But I always recommend to have 4 gigs of RAM for your WebLogic. Okay, so computer which is hosting WebLogic should have at least 4 gigs of RAM as per me. So my recommendation would be 4 gigs. Okay. So before this, I just wanted to discuss one more thing. So type of installers we have. Actually, that is missed in the slide, it seems. So coming to the type of installers, we have discussed about the installations, right? So if you go to the Oracle website for the WebLogic downloads, you find majorly these variants actually. .exe file, maybe like this, WebLogic 1036. So it is 10.3.6 .exe files. So .exe is used for the Windows, and so .bin is used for Unix flavors. Okay, and .jar is the universal, see, this is for development. Okay, so coming to the installers, so the selection of installer is also a key thing actually. So once you have the installer, then only we go for the installation, right? So the installer software, what I'm talking about. See, we have a different variants available in the Oracle website for the downloading. So the .exe, we have two types again, the complete installer or the generic installer. Okay, so complete installer comes with a JDK. You don't need to have any Java environment in your computer. You don't need to have a JDK, because I told you, right, we need to have at least 1.6 JDK for the WebLogic to run in any computer. So if you go with the complete installer, you don't need that, because it will install the JDK first. So this complete installer, it will install the JDK and then the WebLogic software. So we don't see any compatibility issues. Okay, so these are like complete installers, .exe. So this is for Windows, and .bin for the Unix flavors, and this is also a complete installer. So once you run this installer in the Unix boxes like Red Hat Linux, Ubuntu, whatever, so it will first install the JDK and then the WebLogic. You don't see any environment related issues. And coming to the jar, so this is like generic installer. So this is a Java generic installer. So once you download this software, this can be used across multiple operating systems like Windows, Linux, Solaris, Ubuntu, whatever, even Mac, whatever. So any operating system you can install the WebLogic, but this is a generic installer, and this is also called as universal installer. But the request would be it should have a JDK installed before running this, because it's a jar program, right? It's a jar. So you need to run it like a Java program to start the installation. For that you need a Java environment. Okay. So the complete installers comes with the JDK inbuilt, but the generic installer, the advantage is once you download that generic jar file, you can use it at any operating system. But the prerequisite would be it should have a Java environment. And coming to the zip format, it is a very, a simple installation. It's, just download the zip file and unzip it. That's it. Your installation will be completed. It contains the Java, it contains the WebLogic software and all other things. So these are designed for the developers actually, because developers are not good with the administration of the computers. So like Linux administration or Unix administration, they will be not having much skills on that. So the installation needs of step-by-step commands and process, right? So instead of that, they can simply download the zip file and unzip it. This is not recommended in our production boxes. We only use the first three variants of the installers when we are doing the installation on your production boxes. Okay, so that's about the installers. We already seen the requirements. So coming to the GUI mode of installation. So GUI mode of installation is nothing but it's a wizard. So most of the softwares we install, it's like a wizard, right? Next, 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 and then end, install. Okay, finish. Right. So it is a very simple process. When you are doing an installation from the graphical user interface, it's a very straightforward. Just run the software. You could see the complete installers here, the .bin and .exe. So the .exe, if you execute in the Windows, it will open this wizard and go to next, 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 and then finish. So it's a very simple and straightforward installation. So coming to the console mode of installation, the console mode of installation, we invoke the console mode of installation with this command. So after the installation software, give the command -mode equal to console. It will start your WebLogic installation in the console mode. So console mode is nothing but without any graphics, just like your putty session. So in your putty session, can you see any screen colored graphical colored pop-ups? You can't see anything, right? So it's like just a commands you execute and you will get the response back in again the console format. So in Windows also you can have a console environment with the command prompt. So this is the console mode. So here you could see, right? So whatever you enter here, you will get a response. Right? You enter a command, it responds back with an output, right? So here you don't see any colors, graphics, nothing. So if you don't have the access to the graphical user interface, that means most of the production boxes you can't access the graphical user interface. You have very limited access to that. So we log into the remote boxes with a putty session, right? Mostly we will be using putty session or any other SSH utility. So using that, you just log into that remote box. If you're doing installation on your own computer, you have the graphical access, you can do it with the graphical user interface mode. Straightforward. Just execute that installer, it will just pop up the welcome page and next, 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 finish the installation. But when you are doing on a remote box, if it is a Windows box, you can do RDP and you can still use the graphical user interface. But if it is a Linux box, mostly we will be using the putty sessions, right? So putty session will look like this and it doesn't have any graphics there. So in those cases, you can go for this console mode of installation. That is very simple. After the installer, you need to give -mode equal to console. So this will start the installation in the normal command prompt, and it is very similar to the graphical user interface. So whatever the steps you have in the graphical user interface, the same steps will come up in the console mode of installation. So don't worry, I'll just explain both the installations. I will do the installation in both the ways. And coming to the third one, this is called as silent mode of installation. So here you the first two modes, like graphical user interface mode or the console mode, are like the interactive modes. So you need to interact with the installer. So first of all, select the directory or the path of the installation. Next, so you wanted to install the node manager and other things, select yes or no, go to next. So what is the product installation directory path? Select next. So in this way, you need to give a step instruction at every page. Okay, or every every page you just give some instructions in the graphical user interface. Similarly, in the silent console mode also you give instructions. So that means you are interacting with the installer. Installer will ask you certain questions and you are responding back to that installer. So those are called as interacting mode of installations. So for us it is graphical user interface and the console mode. Here you are interacting with the installer. But coming to the silent mode, it is a non-interacting mode of installation. Okay, it is a non-interacting mode of installation where the user is not actually interacting with an installer. Instead of that, he creates a silent.xml file. We can create a silent.xml file, give all the answers in that silent.xml file, like this is the path, this is the node manager, port number, and this is the path again of the PID. In this way you can give all the required answers in a silent.xml file. Give this silent.xml file as an input to your installation software like this. So your installation software hyphen mode equal to silent and then hyphen silent.xml equal to the path of that file. Okay, path of that silent.xml file. So what happens now? So the installer, instead of asking you, it will read the data from this file and it will complete the installation. It's very fast because it is not asking any commands from you or instructions from you. It reads from the silent.xml file and it completes the installation. So when we go for the silent mode of installation, when we want to install WebLogic on multiple boxes, like 200 boxes, 250 boxes, so you go for this silent mode of installation. Okay, this is the non-interacting mode of installation. So the post installation, after completing the installation, you need to check whether these files are generated or not. The important files would be the registry.xml file. So the directory anyways that executes, right? So once you install WebLogic on a particular directory, just check whether the directory got created or not. And the second step would be the registry.xml file. So this is the file where your WebLogic version details, patch details, everything will be available. So you need to check exactly the version and everything is been exactly installed or not. And then utils directory. Utils directory contains directories like uninstall and other things. Okay. And coming to the product installation directory, so product installation directory is the key directory in your WebLogic installation. So that is a WebLogic server 10.3. This is called as product installation directory, which contains the tools and utilities of WebLogic. The tools that are used to create a domain, create a template, all those things will be existing in this WebLogic product installation directory, and the logs will be there. Just check the logs, go through the logs if there is any errors or if there is any warnings while installing the WebLogic. And again, the modules contain the complete jars, because WebLogic is a Java program, right? So these Java features, all the features of WebLogic will be executed using these jar files. So just its directory contains the jar files. Just check once whether the module directory has been created or not. So this is the product installation directory, how it looks. So it contains a common directory, samples, server and uninstall. So we'll see more of this directory when we come to the next classes actually. This is very important directory. I will explain while creating the, while installing the WebLogic. Okay. Any doubts guys so far? Shiva, Wilson or Mujmal, any doubts? No doubts? Yeah, that's it for today's session. Tomorrow I will explain about the practical session of WebLogic installation. Sorry. So if you have no doubts, we can wind up for today's session. I will come back tomorrow. Yeah.
So, can we get the courses, the the PDF which you have shown.
These documents, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this I will share. Daily I will share with you.
Okay.
Okay. Just to ping your email ID so that I can share this and the software also. Okay. Or I'll just ping my email. You can just send me a text mail. Okay. So you can send me a text mail and I didn't get you?
Hi, this is Wilson.
Yeah, Wilson.
Yeah, this is part of a training or it is a demo kind of stuff?
It's a part of the training. It's not the demo kind of a demo. I already finished. It's the first lab, that is the installation. So this is the
Okay.
theory class for the installation. The practical session I'll do tomorrow.
Okay. So this will be explained based on 10G version or this 11G?
11G.
11G only, okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you guys. I mean, we'll meet tomorrow then. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.